that versus the fact that we've got immortals, that we've got eternals that are just having fun and playing around with living beings in the galaxy, and the Doctor is going up against these two crackling immortals. Off you pop. But when it comes down to how they portrayed them, I really like the Green Walker. He is something creepy, kind of like straight out of Phantasm. Like, it reminded me a lot of Phantasm. He was like the cut up finger in the back. Like, it felt like that, but not as well done, even though that was like an indie movie back in the day, but became cult classic. Here, it just felt like, okay, this guy is just creepy, and he's got his fingers flying all over the place and putting them in places he ain't supposed to put them. But I do like that she was more so like the powerful one that roped them into helping her, just making them feel like she needed help, and that's what the Doctor does. The Doctor answers calls for help. And so when they helped her, it was a trick, and she just needed to get out of prison. And she's a bad girl. So I'm glad they didn't take them out. They just kind of locked them away with the man-bear pig.
Gone. They're just there, and they could come back, and that would be kind of cool. Get these characters back, because these are all powerful beings that you kind of have to lock away and throw away the key.
Getting rid of them until they come back and cause a lot of havoc later, which I didn't like. I felt like we could have had like a 2-part arc with these beings, throw down with the Doctor, and she's got to pull out something clever, not just the little orb to lock them in with the man-bear pig. But when it comes down to it, like, I like those characters. I like that they brought them into this universe, and that they've got no regard for any living being because they're immortal and they're just trying to pass the time. So seeing them come back into the play and go up against the Doctor sometime again, like, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I mean, we got a little bit of the timeless child when they go into the Doctor's mind, just a tiny bit, because they're like, oh, remember, we still have to do this. And we are going to be, it's coming to the end. We only have 3 more episodes left, and we started to get the 2-parter final season finale, so that will be a big doozy.
I had to crap out right now in the final show. Either way, guys, thanks for watching this weird reaction for episode 7 of Doctor Who on YouTube. What did you guys think? Let us know in the comments below. You can also like, subscribe.
And do the same on our Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, stuff.
All the social networking features and where they are. Keep it good, Friday, keep Friday going, our tweets out. Get the sort of new shows. Thank you guys so much.
All right.
At least within the military, when it comes to the specific case of Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman, we have had some very pious assertions from the people who would be in an Elliot Richardson, Bill Ruckelshaus kind of role in this fire. And of course, they would never let anything like this happen. Of course, they'd never let anything like what happened tonight. Of course, they'd never let that happen. In November, when Lieutenant Colonel Vindman emerged as a witness in the impeachment inquiry, you might remember that the Army moved in prepared to move his family to a secret location. They developed a special security detail for him and his family to keep them safe in the face of an incredible number of threats against him and his family. After he was demonized by not just the White House, but by the conservative media and by the president's supporters in Congress and around the country. At the time, Defense Secretary Mark Esper was asked about Colonel Vindman during a gather with reporters. A reporter from Defense One, Marcus Wildberger, actually posted online the full transcript of that exchange, and it is worth looking at tonight. Tonight of all nights, it is worth getting this re-upped in the public record. You should see this. To Defense Secretary Mark Esper. Question. Alexander Vindman is in the news. Remember, this is from November. This is the time that Alexander Vindman is becoming national news, right? Question. Alexander Vindman is in the news. A lot of service members are going to be wondering, is his career toast after testifying? And should I take the risk of whistleblowing? What do you tell them as the Defense Secretary? Answer from Defense Secretary Mark Esper. The Department of Defense has protections for whistleblowers. They are guaranteed in law, and he should not have any fear of retaliation. That is the department's position. Question. He meaning Vindman? Answer. He and any other whistleblower, all right? Question. Are you going to reinforce that message periodically? Answer. I've already spoken to the Secretary of the Army about that. Question. What was the message to him? Answer. No retaliation. That's law. Question. There's the law, but there's also ways to screw somebody. Answer. There's no retaliation. It's that simple. Defense Secretary Mark Esper in November, personally guaranteeing that there would be no retaliation against Alexander Vindman for him testifying in the impeachment inquiry. No retaliation under the law in terms of him being criminally prosecuted or something, but also no other way to, in the reporter's words, quote, screw him as revenge for him testifying. And there's the guarantee, right? No, there's no retaliation. It's that simple. You shouldn't have any fear of retaliation. No retaliation, that's the law. So says Defense Secretary Mark Esper. Shortly thereafter, the top Democrat in the Senate, Chuck Schumer, wrote to Defense Secretary Mark Esper, asking in writing for him to confirm that Lieutenant Colonel Vindman would be protected from any retaliation, any revenge for his testimony. Schumer wrote to Defense Secretary Mark Esper on November 18th. Took the Defense Department almost a full month to write him back. When they did, the letter this time didn't come from Defense Secretary Mark Esper. It came from the Deputy Secretary of Defense, a man named David Norquist. Remember Grover Norquist? The anti-tax, longtime conservative activist guy who famously said he wanted to get government down to the size where he could drown it in a bathtub? Grover Norquist has a little brother whose name is David Norquist, who Trump named Deputy Secretary of Defense. And that's who sent this letter back to Chuck Schumer when Senator Schumer inquired as to whether or not the Defense Department would protect Colonel Vindman from retaliation for his impeachment inquiry testimony. Here's what David Norquist pledged in writing on Pentagon letterhead on December 16th. Quote, Dear Senator Schumer, thank you for your letter to Secretary Esper dated November 18th regarding recent testimony by Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman and Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense Laura Cooper. I'm replying on Secretary Esper's behalf. Let me assure you, the department will not tolerate any act of retaliation or reprisal against them. Further, we're committed to taking whatever steps are necessary to ensure the security of Colonel Vindman and Ms. Cooper. We continue to monitor their security situation and will make available any appropriate resources necessary to ensure their safety and that of their families. Again, please know we take our responsibility to protect our people very seriously. I appreciate your continued support of the men and women of the Defense Department and will keep you apprised of any developments as appropriate. Let me assure you, the Department will not tolerate any act of retaliation or retaliation. We will keep you apprised of any developments as appropriate. No word as to whether or not David Norquist, Deputy Secretary of Defense, in fact kept the Senate Democratic leader apprised over the last 24 hours when reports first started surfacing that President Trump indeed was planning on taking revenge against Colonel Vindman for his testimony. Bloomberg News was first to report late last night that President Trump might be seeking to take his revenge, to retaliate against Colonel Vindman for having been a witness. Defense Secretary Esper was again asked about this matter at a press conference today, despite his earlier assurances, his earlier pious guarantee that he wouldn't allow any retaliation against Vindman whatsoever, despite him saying that himself in November, and the Deputy Secretary of Defense saying that on his behalf in writing in December. Today, Defense Secretary Mark Esper was not exactly a profile in courage when he was asked about that matter in light of Bloomberg News' report that Vindman might be in the president's crosshairs.
I would refer you to the Army for any more detail on that. And as I said, we protect all of our persons, service members from retribution or anything like that. So we've already addressed that in policy and other means.
We protect all of our service members from retribution or anything like that. So it was less than 4 hours later that Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman was not only fired from his White House job, but marched off the White House grounds, as was his brother.
We hear odd stories.
What exactly did his brother do, who had no role whatsoever in the impeachment inquiry?
I haven't even told you what I've heard.
Well, he's Alex Vindman's brother.
Particularly the
And
part with the grapes and
maybe that's enough.
Oh,
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes
I
from
was leading
MSNBC. Thanks
towards
for
that one,
watching
actually.
MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.
My 2 video game boyfriends.
Cologuard, colon cancer screening for people 45 plus at average risk.
Some things are harder than you thought.
Presidency at one of his own for-profit or private properties. And we know that there's public money expended at his own properties whenever he does that. So when the Washington Post's David Fahrenthold dropped this scoop today that President Trump charges his own Secret Service agents as much as $650 a night per room when he stays at one of his properties, that he's charged the Secret Service $17,000 a month for a cottage on one of his properties, a rate that appears to be at least double the highest comparable rental rate nearby, that the Trump administration has lied about these charges, saying publicly that they're actually charging the Secret Service nothing or almost nothing to stay on their properties when they're in fact charging them what appears to be the rack rate. Well, all that reporting, I mean, that is quite a scoop. But it's the kind of scoop that isn't necessarily surprising, given what we know about how the president likes to butter his own cup at taxpayer expense. Here's the part, though, of David Farenthold's latest scoop that knocks me back a little bit. Quote, Trump's company says it charges only minimal fees, but Secret Service records do not show that. The Secret Service is required to tell Congress twice a year about what it spends to protect Trump at his properties. But since 2016, it has only filed 2 of the required 6 reports, according to congressional offices. Even in those 2 reports, the lines for Bedminster and Mar-a-Lago were blank. Donald Trump sticking his hand in the public till this way, right? Donald Trump trying to get taxpayer money for himself this way, monetizing the presidency. Got it. We're kind of used to that by now. Trump's company lying about that? Got it. It's a day that ends in Y. But the Secret Service helping cover that up, that feels like something about us, not them. That feels unsettling. For the record, the Secret Service tells us in a statement tonight that it, quote, balances operational security with judicious allocation of resources. Okay, good to know. Thank you for the statement. Not relevant to this inquiry. But here's the thing. The president's business is not just lying about this. They have tried to turn that lie into a political asset. They have been publicly telling the country that they're saving taxpayers' money by charging the Secret Service nothing or next to nothing to stay at all of these properties. That is a lie. And frankly, I'm not surprised by them lying. But according to this new reporting from David Fahrenthold, the Secret Service is helping them perpetuate that lie. And that's on the Secret Service. It is one thing for you to be a corrupting influence in politics. It's another thing for you to be a government agency that is allowing yourself to be used for a corrupt purpose and is helping covering it up.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.
Why wouldn't someone want to kill humans, huh? Still, poor fools.
Are you a Dalish elf?
Of course, you would have little experience with the people. Yes, we're Dalish. We've been camped for weeks in the fields to the west. The war between the lions made passage through the dirt difficult. Damaged some of our arable.
Harvey Weinstein's trial could come to a close as soon as next week. Weinstein's defense team called their first expert witness to the stand Thursday in an effort to discredit more than 2 weeks of testimony. So far, the prosecution has called more than 24 witnesses to the stand, including 6 women who say they were either raped or sexually assaulted by the former Hollywood producer. Weinstein has always maintained what he did was consensual. For more on this, Jesse Weber is an attorney and host on the Law and Crime Network. Jesse, thank you so much for being with us today. We appreciate it. People watching this case obviously very closely. After weeks of testimony, the prosecution rested. How do you think it's going over so far?
So if you think about the prosecution, very strong case. As you said, 6 women who talked about this common pattern, how Harvey Weinstein allegedly used deception, power, and physical force to commit these sex acts against their will. That's the main thing here, that these women didn't consent. And what was, for me, what I found really remarkable is when these women, the level of detail and how they describe these events, you have to say to yourself, are they really making this up? Are they all mistaken? Are they all lying? Because they had opportunities to embellish their stories to make it worse for Harvey Weinstein, but they didn't. They were very clear on what he did at times, but maybe more importantly, what he didn't do. So all in all, I have to say that the prosecution put on a very strong case, and now we're seeing what the defense is doing.
So really, it's remembering the details to you and also not reporting certain things within this case.
Absolutely.
Okay. So on Friday, Weinstein's lawyers began their defense by calling forward an expert witness in an attempt really to discredit these people, these women that have come forward in the witness stand. She testified that memories become distorted over time. Is this an important strategy, or how is this going to play? Because I feel like we've had so much discussion about the Me Too movement. Is discrediting the way to go here?
There's 2 ways that the defense is working at this. One, they could say all these women are lying. That might not be the best tactic. You're going to say 6 women are all lying. This is a different way. They're saying that what they think is real is not real. This is Dr. Elizabeth Loftus, a cognitive psychologist who focuses on memories and how, you know, memories fade over time, she said. And what's interesting are these things called post-event information, these cues, suggestions, therapy, media exposure. And it could taint or contaminate or distort what your memory is. You might relabel something in 2017, what happened in 2006 or back in the 90s. In other words, not saying that these women are lying, but that they're mistaken about what they think actually happened. And I thought that was a really, really interesting way to go about it, because, again, striking at this in 2 ways. There were certain witnesses whose stories didn't match up, their details didn't make sense, and maybe that's a way to explain it and give a larger perception about what these women actually went through, because consent is this whole case.
Right, that's the bottom line. 2 of his accusers reportedly kept in contact with Weinstein, and it seems that the defense is really going to use that point, I would guess, to argue their case as well. Of why would these women keep in contact with Harvey Weinstein if something horrific happened? But we know from previous cases that often does happen with victims. So how are they going to use this in their case?
We can't forget, this is the biggest hurdle for the prosecution. Why did these women stay in contact with him? And it makes it look like everything that happened between them was consensual. The idea that they had a relationship afterwards, the idea they stayed in contact. There was also the suggestion that they were manipulating him in order to get something for their careers. And that is a big hurdle for the prosecution. That's why they called out Dr. Barbara Ziv, who was tasked with dispelling these rape myths. She said it happens a lot of times where victims do stay in contact with their attackers. But let's not forget what Damon Jeronis, one of the attorneys for Harvey Weinstein, said in opening statement. You're going to hear this expert. She's going to have a lot to say. But you guys, use your common sense about what you really think happened here. And that's going to be something the jury has to go through. Common sense versus expert.
Yeah, and people have their own opinions about things that they bring into the jury box. You can't forget that. Harvey Weinstein's lawyer sparked tremendous outrage in an interview just this week when she said that she had never been sexually assaulted because she, quote, never put myself in that position. How does that play for the team moving forward? I mean, people were talking about this and really enraged by this. Is it really the court of public opinion? Will this weigh into anybody's mind within the courtroom?
Let's hope the jury didn't hear this. I mean, that would really taint them. But what she said is not exactly what's happening in this case. So she's not saying that these women were sexually assaulted and it's their fault, not Harvey Weinstein. She's saying these women were never sexually assaulted.
That it was consensual.
That it was consensual. Having said that, this is a larger theme from Donna Rotuno, where it's to put the women in the hot seat. Are they to blame for certain things that happen? And she made a larger point throughout this whole case about the Me Too movement, that it's going to chill relations between men and women about how they interact. And this is part of her larger conversation. What I don't think she wanted was this to happen in the middle of a trial, because she, in open court, I was there, where she said, I did this interview a long time ago. Now it's coming out that she did this interview maybe last week.
Right.
I'm curious to see what happens Monday when all this blows back and Judge Burke will maybe have some words for her about this interview.
You think so?
Well, I mean, look, he put an order that says, just don't talk about the witnesses. I understand you have to do this. Don't talk about the witnesses. And maybe he's going to give a further order, maybe not. He seemed to kind of ignore it in open court and have the case move on. But after the blowback that we saw, I wonder if there's going to be some explaining to do. It's just the important thing is for the jury to not hear anything that she said, because it's going to affect how they look at this case.
It's hard to do in this day and age.
I got to tell you, I'm shocked that we only had 3 alternates. We thought that there were going to be more. We haven't had any problems.
Thank you for this.
This is not wood, this is glass.
We're not far from where my friend
I'm not sure it's even glass.
Yeah, well, that's good. But, the idea is that this might come to a conclusion without any juror problems, any jury misconduct, them not hearing anything. I got to say, that's a miracle in and of itself.
Yeah, hopefully they're taking it really seriously. Now,
they are.
we do know that Weinstein has continually maintained his innocence in this case, saying these relationships were consensual, each one, pushing that off. What do Weinstein's lawyers really need to do to get that into the minds of the jury and solidify it really in the minds of the jury so that when they go debate this case, that's how they think?
It's all about reasonable doubt. And I really have to make that clear. The cases where I've seen that have been really worked well for defense attorneys is that in a closing argument, after they try to say all these different ways that these women might be mistaken or lying, they say, if you think Harvey Weinstein did this, not guilty. If more likely than not he did this, not guilty. If he probably did this, not guilty. There's such a high bar. They have to really explain that to the jury about how high a bar it is. And if you have reasonable doubt about what happened in 2006, 2013, in 1983, 1994, then you're going to have to acquit him. You might not want to do it. You might not like it.
Thank you for this,
these jurors took
We're not far from where my friend was
promise that they wouldn't be affected by anything on the outside, and that even if they acquit him, they can deal with the repercussions of that, whether it's family, friend, or media exposure. This is the jury that we have, and we hope they're going to take this responsibility seriously and really carefully weigh the evidence from both sides.
Well, it's going to be an interesting week.
Absolutely.
Jesse Weber, thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
My friend.
The Major's turned your friend into a demon.
Yes.
You said it was a spirit of wisdom, not a fighter.
A spirit becomes a demon when denied its original purpose.
So they summoned it for something so opposed to its own nature that it was corrupted. Fighting.
Let us ask them.
A mage! You're not with the bandits? Do you have any lyrium potions? Most of us are exhausted. We've been fighting that demon.
You summoned that demon! Except it was a spirit of wisdom at the time. You made it kill! You twisted it against its purpose!
I understand how it might be confusing to someone who has not studied demons, but after you help us, I can...
We are not here to help you.
Word of advice? I'd hold off on explaining how demons work to my friend here.
Listen to me. I was one of the foremost experts in the Kirkwall...
Shut up. You summoned it to protect you from the bandits.
Yes.
You bound it to obedience, then commanded it to kill. That is when it turned. The summoning circle. We break it, we break the binding. No orders to kill, no conflict with its nature, no demon.
What? The binding is the only thing keeping the demon from killing us. Whatever it was before, it is a monster now.
Inquisitor, please!
I've studied rituals like this. I should be able to disrupt the binding quickly.
Thank you. We must hurry!
Tel Abalos en Asel Atalin. Mamilava Halani. Malasuladinadas. Magilani Midinan.
Manuvinin. Dareth Shara.
I'm sorry, Solus.
Don't be. We gave it a moment's peace before the end. That's more than it might have had. All that remains now is them.
Thank you. We would not have risked the summoning, but the roads are too dangerous to travel unprotected.
You tortured and killed my friend.
We didn't know it was just a spirit. The book said it could help us.
Damn them all. I need some time alone. I will meet you back at Skyhold.
Yeah, sorry about lost of microphone. Those mages deserved it. I'm sorry. Spirits are a lot more fragile than humans give them credit for. In every reality. Especially our own.
That's a demon's work.
Get ready!
the Inquisition. Only a few of them out of confidence in fighting.
Just finally coming to its senses. Where do you want to go? Now that the mages and the Templars aren't trying to kill each other.
It's a pretty enough area, but still dangerous.
Is he trying to summon a demon?
Maker take you into his hands.
Easy to access skull for once. Yeah. Okay, so I joke that fast travel is like teleportation. It's not. There actually is teleportation in this franchise. Surprise. And it's pretty complicated. Oh, I see. I went the wrong way. Entirely. Back south.
I'm sure we could get someone to open this passage, if that's what you wanted, dear.
So yeah, it's in the sealed off section. Okay. With that, I think I'm done here for today. Time to deal with Lady Josephine's quest, yeah? I mean, we are on the way back from Exalted Plains, so isn't that much of a detour. Just a small smackerel one.
They'll appoint a new divine soon. One will make you stand up to us.
In the Inquisition? Red jelly?
It's the Grand Ball in the Winter Palace, you stuck.
So Gaspard favors the trade you started, but Celine favors the houses you married into.
And in the balance is servant here. Thank you.
A pleasure.
I brought the 3 members of royalty in my party with me.
Do you know where this noble wanted to meet us?
I do. The Comte Boisvert invited us to his mansion, not far from here. I pray he clears up the deaths of my messengers, as promised.
Lead the way.
Welcome, my friend.
Thank you for seeing us, Comte Boisvert.
The honor is mine. Please, sit. It's an honor to assist 2 such distinguished guests.
I hope helping us doesn't endanger you.
Hardly. Even a brush with someone as well known as yourself can become a great asset in Val Royale. Giving you the identity of those who murdered Lady Montile's messengers seemed the least I could do. Have you heard of the House of Repose?
The Assassin's League?
My contacts obtained a copy of a document in the archives. Contract for a life.
The House of Repose is hereby sworn to eliminate anyone attempting to overturn the Montilier's trading exile in Orlais.
Who signed that?
Who's sending these assassins?
The contract was signed by a noble family. The Du Paraquets.
But the Du Paraquets died out as a noble line over 60 years ago.
Indeed. But the contract was signed 109 years ago.
How can a family try to kill you after they died out?
The deux Paraquets were our rivals. They drove the Montiliers from Val Royaux. This contract was drawn up over 100 years ago, but it wasn't invoked until I tried to overturn my family's exile.
Unpleasant though it may be, the House of Repose is merely fulfilling its contractual duties.
The contract's ancient.
If the people who wanted your family dead are gone, why are the assassins still after you?
A contract is a contract, Inquisitor. Orlesian businesses live and die by their reputations. The entire guild's welfare would be endangered if an agreement was tossed aside on a whim of time or fate.
She's quite right, Your Worship. The House of Repose is doing what it feels necessary, by its standards.
I'll do what I can to stop these attacks, Josephine.
Thank you, Inquisitor. I think I may know how. The deux Paraquets still have descendants under the common branch. If we elevate them to nobility, a deux Paraquet could annul the contract on my life.
That will take time, Lady Montilier. Time during which the House of Repose will be obliged to hunt you.
Will they now? You are exceedingly well informed. You're not to have said you'd heard rumors, at best.
A bit of subterfuge. This contract on your life is an ugly business. One the House of Repose deeply regrets. But this is Orlais. Even an assassin's word is his bond.
Does Comte Boisvert actually exist?
Absolutely. The Comte's offer to reveal the killers of Lady Montilier's messengers was genuine. So was his information somehow. An end to be tied up later.
I thought you were remarkably well informed about a secret assassin's guild.
We are hardly secret, my dear Inquisitor, just normally much more reclusive. The contract on Lady Montilier's life is so unusual, we felt the courtesy of an explanation was in order.
It is appreciated, monsieur.
Your idea to seek out the deux Paraquets to revoke our orders is an interesting one. I wish you luck. I did not come to shed blood today, Inquisitor. Only to speak. Might I pass?
Why warn us about your contract and let us go?
In Orlais, it is only decent to inform those involved in a contract when extraordinary circumstances conspire.
And the guild's reputation would suffer if you ignored the contract. I quite understand.
Thank you, my lady. May we conclude with my departure?
Not on your life.
As you wish.
That's the last of them.
Bill, I should have insisted we remain with you instead of waiting downstairs like servants.
The fault is mine. You all put yourselves in danger here because of me. Let's discuss this problem in safety, Inquisitor, at Skyhold.
Do you hear something?
Oh, goodness. Comte Poivert, is that you? Oh, the lock's been broken off. We'll find a saw. I realize the cabinet is quite valuable, Comte, but surely... A locksmith, then?
I have some stuff I've got to do in Skyhold anyway, so let's go ahead and get that done. Also empty my inventory.